Well, former Ukrainian comedian Volodymyr Zelensky has been sworn in as the country's sixth president. During his inauguration speech, Zelensky dissolved the parliament and called for early elections. He urged lawmakers to use the 2 months until a snap election to pass a law that would strip them of immunity from prosecution. Now, the new president has no previous political experience, but is well known for his portrayal of the former president in a satirical television show.
Дорогі українці,
Dear Ukrainians, after my election win, my 6-year-old son said, "Dad, I saw that they said on TV that Zelensky is the president. That means I'm the president too." That may have sounded like a child's joke, but with time, I realized that this is the truth. Every one of us
і тоді
is
це
president.
прозвучало як
Well, I'm joined now by the director of the Eurasia Democracy Initiative, Peter Zalmayev. He joins us from Kiev. Thanks so much for speaking to us. I first want to establish what you make of this inauguration and this speech. I mean, he starts out dissolving parliament, calling new elections, firing some top officials. Is he off to a good start?
I think he's off to the kind of start that his voters expect from him. Mr. Zelensky played a populist and plain-spoken, no-nonsense president, and when he became one at his inaugural speech, he spoke as one. And I think he delivered all the messages that his voters wanted to hear from him. He promised that he would be a fair president. He said that all 100% of the people who voted in the election, including those who voted against him, are all Ukrainians. He spoke in parts of his speech. He delivered in Russian, which could be seen as controversial by some, and I think it was an implicit rebuke of the outgoing President Poroshenko with his law making Ukrainian the only state language. Zelensky's message has been unity of all Ukrainians, and I think this is what his voters wanted to hear. He also promised a very popular step to disband the parliament, but also to fire some of the representatives of the old guard, the old ministers, including the prosecutor general and the head of the security agency. And this is definitely a very popular measure.
You know, you mentioned he was speaking Russian. Some say it's controversial. Others say it's an olive branch of sorts. You know, the Kremlin said today Zelensky is not going to receive a congratulatory call from President Putin until Russia sees some progress towards settling the conflict there in eastern Ukraine. Do you think the new president welcomes that challenge?
I think he welcomes the challenge. He met it. He met the test so far with flying colors. To Putin's provocation a few weeks ago, when the Russian president announced that he would be giving Russian passports to residents of the occupied territories in eastern Ukraine, he delivered a very, very strong sort of rebuttal, sort of a comeback when he said, you know, we welcome all Russians of goodwill to come to Ukraine and become Ukrainian citizens. This was quite unexpected, quite strong. I don't think Kremlin is naive to believe that the new president has the mandate to change anything fundamentally when it comes to Ukraine's strong stance, when it comes to its territorial integrity. So far, Zelensky's message has been pretty much similar to Mr. Poroshenko's. Not an inch of Ukraine's territory, negotiating only with Ukraine's interests in mind. At the same time, his prescription for ending the war in the Donbass is still thin on specifics. He has not proposed anything fundamentally different from the outgoing president. And overall, we also have to add that Ukraine's path towards integrating with the European Union and NATO remains the same under the new president.
You know, you talked earlier about what his supporters expect from him, which was interesting because an analyst I spoke to earlier said the inauguration speech and the presentation kind of smacked of TV drama, as if the president is still in acting mode. Do you think that's an issue here?
I think it's an issue that can be very helpful to the new president. If he is able to surround himself with capable individuals who can govern smartly, without antagonizing needlessly those who voted against Zelensky, and he begins sort of stay above the fray, if he can bring to bear his talents of a troll, let's put it bluntly, talents of a comedian, continue delivering this unifying message, he might as well become a very, very popular president. But it's going to be a very, very tricky and balancing act.
Peter Zalmayev, so interesting to speak to you. Thanks so much for joining us there from Kiev.